Hey developers, this is part 2 of my series where we create a portfolio site using coder.com. Now, if you haven't seen the first video, make sure you click here in the corner and watch the first video so that way you're caught up and you'll know what we're doing. So the last time I left you off, we had set up the project in the coder.com IDE, and by the way, you can click on the link below to create your free account for coder.com. It's absolutely free right now, so make sure you do that. If you look here, here's the website. It doesn't show much. It just says header works, hello from welcome, and footer works. So we want to make this look a little bit nicer. And one thing I think we should probably do is we'll create a header using Angular material. That was something that we had installed last time, but we didn't do anything with. And then I think we're going to have a nice, just a quick little layout with some tiles using Angular material again. And then I want each one of those tiles to link to a product. So let's take a look and see how that would work. So first we're gonna do a little bit of housekeeping here. I'm gonna stop the server. And if you remember, this is how we started the server. We ran ng server -- host port 8080, and then I did this disable host check. Is something we needed to do since we're using coder.com. But what I want to do is I want to do ng, which is our Angular command. We're going to do G for generate, and then C for component, and then we're going to create a product component. And what this is going to do is it creates a product that we can list product information. So our main web page will have a bunch of tiles which will have products, which we're going to kind of mock out. I'll show you how we're going to do that. And then, well, we're going to have placeholders basically in for that, and then that'll link to our product page. So if we go back down here, we have this routing module and we have our routes. And this is the route module, but if we go here, here is our route. So let's add a couple more and make sure that they work. So first thing we want to do, so you can see here, we want to put a comma here and we'll create a new one. So we'll have a path, and this path, I just want it to be product. And we're going to have a component here, and the component is going to be product components, the component we just created. So we're going to go up here and import product component. And we're going to do it from, and we're going to put in the location of it, which is product/product.component. And we'll save it there. And we'll just go ahead and make sure it works real quickly. So we have our IDE up here. We'll refresh it. We'll go ahead and open up our terminal again, which is right here. And we'll do our ng serve. So we'll go ahead and start the server again. Oops, we'll have to fix one thing on our route module here. A little typo. From. We'll save it. And we'll close a couple of these. And we'll look here and make sure it compiles correctly, which it should. And we'll turn on fast time because this will make it a little bit quicker for us. And if we refresh it, okay, here's it works. Now let's put in /product. Great, we know that product works, so the new route that we created works. But we actually want our route to be dynamic. So what we can do to make it dynamic is we'll put a slash here, and then we'll put a colon, and then an ID like this. And what that does is it basically makes it a dynamic component, which requires some sort of information to be passed into it as a parameter. So let me show you how that works. So if I Control S here, and I reopen my website, you see header works. But if I put in product, I get an error basically. If you look in the inspect in the console, we don't have any route for that yet. But if I put in /product/1, you can see now it shows product work. So now we have this dynamic parameter that we can do for this route. So if we actually want to see that and see it passed in, if we can go like this. So if we go into our product route and we'll go into our TypeScript file. We'll have to import it in. So we'll do private route equals activated route. And then inside here, we'll go ahead and make sure that we import it. And I'm just double checking what it is. So it's import activated route. And that's from Angular router. And now since we have the route in here, we can actually tie it to something. So we're going to create a variable in the TypeScript file. I'm going to call it index. And I'm going to put a it's going to be a type number. And then on the ng on init here, I'm going to assign it to it. So I'm going to do route this. Everything in our constructor we have to specify with this. So this or anything inside our class here. This dot route dot params dot subscribe. And then inside the subscribe, we can do params. And we're going to have the arrow. You can see your ligatures there. And that'll return this dot index legal params and then the ID that we gave it. So what this is saying is, oops, let me get rid of that. So what this is saying is that I'm taking this activated route, I'm getting the params for it, I'm subscribing to it because it's an observable. It's returning this, yielding this params, and I'm going to take this dot index, which I'm setting, and I'm going to leak it to the, I'm going to set it to the params with the ID that we set earlier in the project. So that's how we do that. So we can go back into our source here. So we'll go app, product, and we'll go to the HTML here, and I'm just going to pass in the index like this. And so you do double curly brackets whenever you're trying to access something that's inside your TypeScript file. So so it's in here. So let's go ahead and see if we see it. We'll save it here. Save it here. Okay, there it is. You can see there's a 1 here. If I put 15 in here, you can see it's 124. So that looks good. Okay, so we can see now we have our parameters coming through in our product route. So that's really cool. So let's see if we can make this look a little better. First, we want to add a few modules that we're going to use. So I already know already, so I'm going to add them in here. So we're going to add in the map menu module. And this is all part of the modules that you need for Angular material to do what we were going to add here. So we're going to add the map menu module. We're going to add the browser animations module, the mat icon module, the mat grid list module, and the mat list module. And then we're going to add all these imports in, and I actually already have them here. So we're going to just copy and paste it here. I'm going to copy and paste it. So basically what we do is we're importing all these map menu module, button module, mat icon, mat grid, mat list from @Angular material. And then we need the browser animation module because we're using that too. And that's from browser animation model from Angular /platform browser /animations. And that's just a requirement that Angular material needs. So now that we have all this saved in here, we're going to reload this to see if we get any errors. We'll look in the console, make sure it still loads. And we're going to take a look here. So yeah, we're still seeing everything fine, no problems. Great. So let's go ahead and add in the header. So in this header.html file, I'm going to add in a few things. So I'm going to delete this. Let's add in a map menu, and that's going to equal map menu. And we'll have the closing map menu. And inside there, we're going to have a couple buttons. We'll have a button called menu item. Oops, item. We'll call this item 1. All right, so we're gonna save it there. And I guess we'll do one more. We'll do a button, mat, button. We'll call this products. And we'll add that there. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. Okay, we have a big products button. There's a few other things we need to do to get this working. So we're missing one thing. What we need to do is add the mat button module. So if we save that and we go back in, now you can see we have our nice products here, but we can actually use it as a drop down. So we're gonna add one more thing. If we go to components HTML, I'm going to add in a trigger. So if we go here, one moment, make sure I have this right. Button, mat button, and then I'm gonna add a mat menu trigger for, and it's gonna equal the menu here, menu. Oops, we'll make sure we don't have these here. And then we'll close the button, save it, and this automatically gets refreshed. You can see now we have this item 1 and item 2, and that matches here our item 1 and item 2. So nothing too crazy, but you can see it's starting to come together a little bit. I'm going to add some styles here to my style.css file. So first, I'm going to add a root. I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call it off-white. And I'm going to have that color FFFF2. That's a little bit off-white there. Actually, we forgot FFF2. And then in my body, I'm going to do a background color. We're going to have a var, and we'll put white, off-white, just so we can use it. And that should be it. I'm going to open this up. You can see here now we got a little bit of this off-white, which I like a little bit better. One thing I'm also wanting to do is in my app component, I went ahead and added in this div class here, made mat app background and basic container and div right here. So what this does is it this is just a class I'm going to add in for our Angular material. The basic container, I just want to do a little bit of styling on, nothing too major. So I'm going to put basic container here, and I'm just going to give it a padding of 30 pixels, so on all sides it'll have 30. So you can see here I moved it a little bit, not too much better, but you can see it's coming around. So let's create a tile structure for our component here. So for our welcome component, and that's going to be the one in the middle. So I'm going to open up the welcome component, and what I want to do here is I'm going to create, basically I'm going to create a dynamic tile layout and use something called an ngIf to display it on the screen using Angular. So to do that, I'm going to export an interface. Now normally you can put interfaces in their own files, but I'm going to just do it like this for now, and I actually want this below the import. And this is going to define what our tiles are going to look like. I'm going to use columns. It's going to be a number. Rows. It's going to be a number. And text. It's going to be string. And then class is going to be string 2. And then inside our welcome component here, I'm going to set this variable up. So we're going to call it tiles. It's going to be type tile that we just created. It's going to be an array. And then each one of this is going to be how we're going to define each tile. And it's going to be an array of objects. So each one is going to be an array. And so I'm going to go ahead and just copy this from the other screen I have here just to save a little bit of time. But basically I'm going to have a columns here, 2 rows, 2, and I'm not going to do color, but I'm going to do class 1 tile. So let me copy the rest. All right, so I have these tiles here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And each one of them, I actually did add the color in, but let me just delete that so we don't need it. Okay, great. So now we have all our tiles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm going to save it. Now inside our actual HTML, we're going to use this this grid layout here. So you can see here, welcome component. This is where we have everything in the middle. But what we're going to do instead, we're going to add in our text here. So we're going to use the material design matte grid list, and I'll go ahead and add it here. Okay, we went ahead and added in the matte grid list and the matte grid tile. These are Angular material options. So what this is saying is we're going to use a grid list. It's going to be 4 columns wide. It's going to have a row height of 200 pixels and the gutter size, which means that the size between the tiles will be 15 pixels. And then they have a matte grid tile, and it's going to do an ng4. And what this does, it loops through an array. So we're going to loop through that tiles array that we just created, which is here. And each one we're going to get this tile out, and we're also going to set this index called I. And then we're going to take the tile that we're going to bind the column span to tile.columns. We're going to bind the row span to tile.rows, and we're going to bind the class to tile.class. And then now we can do inside here is we can look at it. So if we do tile.text here, we're going to save it all, and then we're going to see if we see anything. Okay, so you can see here, I can close this. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it doesn't really show us much right now, but we will soon. One thing we want to do here is we're going to go into the CSS, and what this is, this welcome component CSS, is this is CSS that is only for this welcome component. Basically, it's styled for only this component itself. So we can do, we can go ahead and add in classes. So we saw we had 1 tile through 6 tiles. So I'll go ahead and add that. Okay, great. We have all 6 classes in here. And obviously we can actually do some clever things with Sass and other ways with the CSS, but we're going to keep this really simple and probably copy and paste a few things. So first we want to create a background. And the background on this is we're going to use a URL, and we're going to use the Unsplash, which is a website that you can have free to use pictures. It actually has an API. So I'm going to use the unsplash.com. We're going to get a random picture, and I'm going to make it 800 by 800. And then I'll do no repeat, center, center. And we're going to save it, and we'll see what this looks like after we load it. You can see here, it just put a random picture in here. You can't really see the one very well, but you can see it definitely is working, which is good. So what we need to do now is get all these rest of these updated. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, we went ahead and got all these updated, and you can see here they have the same background URL, except they're a little bit different. And the reason I did this is that way this forces the API to show different pictures. If we had 800 in each one, it would just show the same pictures. But since it's slightly different sizes, it'll look a little different. So here we go. So you can see this is the layout that we have. We have this this column here, a little bit smaller here, 3, 4 is this middle block here, 5 and 6. So let's make this text a little bit brighter so we can see it. So easy way to do that is I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call this box text. Box text, and in it we're going to just do a font size of 4 Arial and then a font weight 900, and we'll make the color. Let's just make it white for now. Well, we could do the var. We'll just make it white. That's fine. And so now since we have this, we can go back into the welcome component itself, and we'll just surround this div tag. So we'll do div class equals box text. and we'll make sure we close it. If we save it, you see now we have our big white text on our background of our pictures, which looks really cool. And the last thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead and have these link to the product page. So what I want to do is when I click 1, it should go to the product page /1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can imagine this could be a store where each page has like a picture of someone and you wanted to buy a t-shirt or pants or something. You would click on it and it would go to the store. Maybe you can actually directly go to it by clicking on one of these. So that should be really easy. We're going to go introduce you to something called router link. So if we go into our welcome component here, so we're going to, in this div class, I'm going to use something called router link. And if you remember correctly, in our router component here, we have this ID, so we can pass it in there. And so if we go back to our HTML, now router link is an easy way of routing to different areas of our app. So we would put in here, and it's usually an array, and we put in the name of the route that we want to go to, like product, and that would go to the product route. But since we need to actually go to a parameterized route, so we'll put a comma here and then the name of what we want to send to it. Now you can see here we have the index, which is let I equals index. So we could just put I right here, and this will route to whatever that I is. So either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Now since it's 0 based, I want it to start at 1, so I'm going to just add 1 to it. And that should be it. So if I click here, it refreshes. I get 6 new pictures. If I click 1, it goes to product works 1. Great. 2, product works 2. Great. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Cool. Can make it a little bit smaller. Makes it a little nicer if I make it a little smaller. One thing I want to do, I want to have a hover effect on these so it looks like it's doing something. So I can do that too. So I'm going to go back to my style.css and I'm going to add that in, which is, so it's matte figure and then a hover. And I'm going to put the background here. I'm going to do RGBA. And this is just basic CSS 0.2. And you're probably wondering why it's matte figure, but if you look in here, that's a built-in property inside here. So you can see now I'm looking, if I'm hovering over it, it changes color slightly. So it kind of just tells me what I'm clicking on. By the way, I only have it on the div tag itself. I could put the router link on the actual whole tile, but now it's just on the text. So that adds a little bit of it. Also, I can do one more thing. There's a matte app background, which I'm just going to copy and paste from my other screen here and save it. And that just helps add the whiteness too. So now the whole page has that off-white color to it. So that's pretty much it for this video. We went over a lot of things. I'm going to, we still have a little bit more to do. I want to show you a few more features, so stay tuned for the next video. If you guys like this video, make sure you look down below. There's that coder.com link. Sign up for it. Try to play around with it. Create a new project. Let me know how it goes. And leave a comment below. Thanks.